All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. First things first, happy Father's Day to all of you gents out there, and I hope that you have and you continue to enjoy your day. With that said, I want to talk about the New York Mets right now, and it's been an up and down first half of this MLB season for the Metropolitans. The Mets began this year by losing their first 5 games before winning 12 out of their next 15. But then the month of May would be very unkind to New York as they went 9 and 19 during that month. And then after the Mets split a 4 game set at home with the Arizona Diamondbacks, they dropped to a season low 11 games under 500. However, since then, things have changed for the Mets, and it began with a team meeting as they've clawed their way back into contention. New York has won 8 out of their last 11, which includes winning their last 5, as they just recorded a 3 game sweep at home this weekend over the San Diego Padres. The Mets are still under 500, okay, but they're now 33 and 37, but they're very relevant in the National League wild card race. Why? Because it's so mediocre on the senior circuit right now. And of course, with that additional wild card spot, it's going to give teams like the Mets hope. I mean, the Mets have several teams ahead of them in the standings, but the Mets right now are only a game and a half out of the final wild card spot in the National League. It's just going to be one of those years, okay? At the end of the day, watching the Mets, needs to come with a warning because it could be hazardous to your health because they've been up and down, frustrating to their fan base, you name it. But to their credit, they've managed to pull themselves off of the canvas and get back into the conversation as far as possibly being a playoff team. You look at the hot bats recently of JD Martinez and Starling Marte. And I'm going to start with JD Martinez because if this guy's a professional hitter, he has produced everywhere he's been, whether it's Houston, Detroit, the Boston Red Sox. He was a part of that championship team back in 2018, and then the Dodgers. This guy just knows how to get it done at the plate, and he's getting it going. And that's protection in the middle of that Met lineup for Pete Alonso. Um, the Mets, they still need to get more consistency out of Pete Alonso. The same could be said for Francisco Lindor, who's starting to hit better. Jeff McNeil, I simply don't know what's going on, and the same thing with Brandon Nemo. This Mets rotation, I mean, the pitching hasn't been great. Okay, they have one of the worst ERAs in the National League, but they did get some help with catcher Francisco Alvarez returning to the lineup. And you've heard reports. Basically, everybody in this pitching staff likes to throw the almost said football because I got football on my mind. Throw the baseball to Francisco Alvarez. That's going to be a big thing. Still no sight of Kodai Singer. Okay, and it looks like at the very earliest, probably right after the All Star break, will the Mets have him back. The bullpen has been questionable at times. The bullpen has also been taxed. Why? Because the Mets are near the bottom in the National League as far as quality starts. They don't have guys in their rotation that can consistently go deep into games. Okay. That's one thing. So of course that is going to tax the bullpen. We've seen the bullpen have issues at times. Of course, Edwin Diaz, he's still working his way back from the leg injury that had him miss all of last year. But nonetheless, he's been up and down. He just came back into his closer's role. He got the save the other night for the Mets. That was definitely had to be big for his psyche as well as the confidence of the team. But you just think about how many games that this bullpen has blown. Okay, over the first half of the season, you take about 4 or 5 of those games right now, and we're singing a different song right now for the Mets. I'll tell you like this: the Major League Baseball season is 162 games. It's a marathon. Clearly, it's not a sprint. And I think the Mets are living proof of that. I mean, they play in one of the most famous cities in the world, home to Wall Street and all that other stuff. And the point that I'm trying to get to, they're kind of like the Dow Jones because they've been up and down. I said coming into this season, the Mets would be up and down, and they're proving me right. And I think that they're going to continue to be up and down. It's one of those where you could see them have a bad week or two, like we've seen them, and then you say, you know what, this team just needs to throw in the towel and be sellers. Then they can get on a roll like they have been lately, and then you can turn around and say, well, you know what, maybe this team has a shot. I'll tell you like this: they've taken advantage of a softer spot in their schedule. May was not easy for the Mets, dealing with the Braves, dealing with the Phillies, the Cleveland Guardians, one of the top teams in the American League, and of course the always tough Los Angeles Dodgers. But with this 5-game winning streak, you won a series against the Marlins. You just swept the Padres, a team that is ahead of you, okay, in that wild card race. But the Padres, for the most part, are a 500 team themselves. You look at it; the Mets will be in Texas this week for 3 against the Rangers. The Rangers are the defending World Series champions, but they have a slew of injuries that they're dealing with themselves. The Chicago Cubs, that's where the Mets will be over the weekend in Wrigley at Wrigley, and I think it's going to be very important for the Mets to try to keep that momentum going. Why? Because next week you welcome the New York Yankees to Queens for 2 games, and the Yankees, they're like gangbusters right now. Okay, so it's only a 2-game set for the Yankees. It's not like the old days of the Subway Series, a 3-game set in the Bronx, 3-game set in the Queens. No, things have definitely changed. But then after that, the Mets need to try to finish off this her first half of the schedule on a positive note. They've got 7 games with the Washington Nationals, a team who is right there in front of them in the standings. Okay, and then on top of that, you finish off with 3 at home against the lowly Colorado Rockies. You've also got a 4-game set in Pittsburgh with the Pirates. You've also got a 3-game set at home with the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros team that is struggling right now. So my point is, the Mets are still going to be an up and down team. I do believe that, but this is a softer spot in their schedule, and they've got to go out there and take care of their business. You look at it, and the way that this season is playing out so far right now, you're not going to have that many sellers on the National League side, I do believe, as of right now. Why? Because as of right now, only the Marlins and the Rockies are really the teams that you can say are out of it. Everybody else, is right there. The Mets and Cubs are a game and a half out of the final wild card spot. Okay, you've got the Reds and Pirates a game out. The Diamondbacks and Giants are each a half game out, and then the Padres and Nationals are now tied for that final wild card spot. And I talked about this. When you add additional wild card spots to the equation, you're going to have less sellers. You're not going to have as many buyers, maybe, but you're going to have some teams that are going to stand pat. So I think, a lot of people saying, well, maybe the Mets are throwing the towel. This hot streak as of late has probably changed all of that. And if they could find a way to get to 500 by the end of the first half of the season as they head into the All-Star break, I think it's a huge shot in the arm for this team. You've got a first-year manager in Carlos Mendoza. You have a first-year president of baseball ops in David Stearns, and he's going to do his things his way. We've seen, McNeil not be in the lineup as much lately during his slumps, and it's one of those. Hey, you've got a manager and you've got somebody who's running the front office that aren't attached to you. Okay. And they're going to do things their way. They're going to put the best 9 guys out there every day that are going to give the Mets an opportunity to win. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But again, they've gotten it going right now. They've taken advantage of this spot in their schedule. Can they keep it going? That is going to be the $1 million question for them. Like I said, they're in Texas this week for 3. Let's see how they look against a Rangers team that limps back home. They just got swept themselves on the road, courtesy of the Seattle Mariners, a Mariners team that's looking to break away with the American League West. But nonetheless, if you're the Mets, you have life. You're still under 500, but you're still in the thick of things um, in the National League wild card race. I think this NL wild card race is the equivalent to, you know, an 8 and 9 team, getting into the playoffs in the National Football League. It's the equivalent to, a 36 and 46 team, making the postseason in the NBA. When you expand the postseason, these things come. But nonetheless, the Mets have gotten themselves off the canvas. They have life. And let's see if they can finish the first half of this season on a positive note. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.